We are here in Houston, Texas, for the 142nd annual meeting in Houston of the NRA. They've been doing this for nearly a century and a half. And there is no better time, no more important time to stand than right now. The slogan on Saturday is "Stand and Fight." And I have no problem standing, nor do the people here at the NRA have no problem standing. It is the fight part that on Saturday night I'm going to try to define a little bit. But there's a lot going on here. There's a leadership forum featuring Sarah Palin, Ted Cruz, Rick Santorum, Bobby Jindal, Rick Perry, just to name a few. There's a music from a country music group called the Eli Young Band, who they'll never work in Hollywood or New York. Or they'll never be popular ever, except with real people. Saturday night is the sold-out Stand and Fight rally. Ted Nugent is going to be there. Wayne LaPierre is going to be giving a speech. And Frank Caliendo is also going to be there, mocking me, I'm sure, with a chalkboard. And then I give the keynote. I got here late last night, and I had dinner with a few people, and I have been coming to these for the last few years. But there is a change in the air. I haven't been down to the open-air gun range. I haven't seen the 400,000-foot exhibit for the vendors yet. Just about everything you can imagine from Cabela's to Bushmaster is there. There's all kinds of seminars and workshops that are going on. And that's really what I think we should be concentrating on now. Why are we even here? It's not about rights. It's about our responsibility to keep and bear arms. All of the details, in case you happen to be in the area and you want to come to the NRA, to their convention, I urge you to do so. I've been to 5 of these meetings, and they keep asking me to speak, and I don't know why, but they do. I think it's become a shorter and shorter list of people who are willing to stand up, and it's different. This is a place where, much to the media and those in Washington, much to their chagrin, this is where the average American person who owns a gun comes. They're the hunters. They're the gun enthusiasts. They're the sportsmen. They're your neighbors. They're people who grew up with guns in their home. It's part of their life. And then there's people like me. My father had a .22 rifle that I only ever saw in his hands on the day that my 17-year-old sister didn't come home at night. And I remember him in this big long closet where it was just like a junk closet and everything was. And he walked in, and it's like 2 o'clock in the morning, and I'm hearing all this racket, and I look out the door, and my mom just goes, and she says, "Bill, it's somewhere, it's in the back, I think." And he pulls this .22 rifle out, and I remember the barrel was bent. And he took it out, and, he's in his pajama bottoms, and he walks out the door, and and I never asked what happened, but my sister always came home on time after that. 9 years ago, because I grew up in a family that didn't have guns, my grandfather and my uncles did, but where I lived, we didn't have guns. And when we first started getting death threats and everything else, I remember my wife and I talked about it, and I said, "We got to get a gun." And then we talked about it, and she's like, "Oh, you're going to shoot somebody?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah." And we started to believe the lies. We started to believe, you're too stupid, you're not responsible, you'll never do it. They'll wrestle the gun away from you, all of that stuff. And I don't know what most people do, but I have a feeling that if you didn't grow up around guns, you go along with the leftist logic and the lies. But let me tell you, the option isn't don't get a gun or own one and be scared to death. The answer is to get educated, understand what you're purchasing, learn how to safely use it, store it, maintain it safely, teach it to your children, and have the understanding that God has given you not only the right, but the responsibility to not only be a protection for your family and yourself, but also for your neighbors and your town. The NRA is not a club where people sit around the campfire and shoot guns up in the area like, yeehaw! They are truly the standard on training and safety. They protect the Second Amendment. And you can't do that without responsibility. They don't promote gun ownership only. They promote police training, firearm safety, marksmanship, hunting, self-defense training. Let me show you something. These are and I'm going to show you a couple of these tonight, but these guns are legendary. When I tell you the story of the guns I've selected for Saturday, these guns tell the American story unlike anyone else. And let me show you one of these. Let me show you this one here. This is how the NRA understands safety. This gun here was used in the American Revolution by the British. Okay? I want you to know that all day, I know how to hold a gun. I know not to point at a gun. I know that when you pick up a gun, because I took an NRA class, I know that you put your finger on the side, you never put it in the trigger. I know all that. Well, they have been on me all day. Mr. Beck, do you understand? I'm like, yes, I got it. In fact, if Eileen would move from the T, where she's not supposed to be standing, the T on that wall is where all of the guns are pointed. If you'd like to stand back there. When I am picking up the guns, no one is supposed to be by the T. That's not me. That's the NRA. That's what they do. They're about safety. And it was started by a general. The first president was a Civil War general who worked as a gunsmith. Union soldiers at the time fired about 1,000 rifle shots for each Confederate soldier hit. Not good. Because the Union won and they saw how horrible things were, the precision of guns had advanced, but nobody was getting better at shooting, and they knew that if we ever have to defend the homeland, it ain't going to work. You can't do it. In fact, Henry rifle, the repeating rifle, it was offered to both the Confederacy and the Union, but nobody bought it. Neither side bought it. It would have won the Civil War, stopped it that fast, if they had it at the beginning. They'd offered it, but the general said, people just waste the ammunition, they're so bad. That's what the NRA originally was set up for. After the war, the general built a gun range and began training and holding competition because he knew we would have to protect the homeland at some point. Also, at the same time, they were starting to disarm the former slaves, and they knew that's a problem. Rights are going to be trampled on. This year, as I said to you a minute ago, there's something different in the air. There's more than the usual camaraderie, which I love. I don't know how many people have been here before, have been to one of these conventions before. Yeah. It's an amazing thing, isn't it? You go down on the floor of the convention, and it's an amazing thing. You may not even know anybody, but you feel like you do. This year, at least last night, I felt it as I met with so many people and leaders of the NRA. There is a weight. The weight of the Second Amendment responsibility, the weight of knowing that it is in the coming days, weeks, and months. It's our generation that will preserve and protect the Constitution of the United States and the Second Amendment, or we will lose it. There's a different tone. Everyone knows the Bill of Rights is in the crosshairs. I spoke last night at the Golden Jacket Dinner. This is the NRA's Golden Ring of Freedom honors, and they honor the individuals and the corporations, et cetera, that have donated at least $1 million or more. And if you give them $1 million, they give you a jacket. I've seen the jacket. It's gold and ugly. But you get a golden jacket, and then I guess you get a dinner with that. These people donate $1 million or more because they believe in the Second Amendment. And they're putting their money where their mouths are. In fact, I've heard people who say, I don't want to sign up for the Blaze, or I don't want to sign up for the NRA and give my $35 for the NRA because it'll put me on a list. I am proud to be on that list. And these guys are at the top of that list. So you know the health of the NRA. Last night, I sat around this table, and there were 6 golden jacket people, 6, that had given $1 million. Tonight, they're having another dinner because they're inducting new members of the Golden Jacket Club. 10 new members. There is no difference, and that's what makes the NRA so great. There is no difference between the high roller and the people who have counted their pennies and have come here and have just done everything they can to scrape up enough money to come and spend the time with their family. That's what makes the NRA a powerful presence in politics and everything else. Not because they have the rich and powerful, but because they also have the poor and powerless as well. This is truly an American institution. Millions of regular, ordinary Americans understand the times that we live in. I don't know if you've heard the latest news. Broke to me about an hour ago. It started out as something entirely different when I first heard the news, and I'm telling you, this is a sign of the times we're living in. I want you to understand I'm going to tell you a news story first. I'm not saying this to you. I'm saying this to the simpletons that are in the rest of the media who will report, Glenn Beck said this is what happened. Let me tell you first the news story, then I'm going to give you my opinion on what I believe we should be looking for here. A man went into the airport here in Houston just about an hour and a half ago and fatally shot himself to death. He had an AR-15 with him. He was at a security checkpoint, Houston International Airport. Reports indicate the body was found in the lobby of Terminal B at the airport. Houston police say an air marshal at the field fired at the suspect, missed. Man then dropped the AR, picked up a pistol, and shot himself. That's what they're reporting now. That doesn't make sense to me. Now, here's what my sources are telling me, along with my opinion on what we should be looking for. I have been looking and fearing moments like this. If it's not this one, it will happen in the coming days. My law enforcement sources here in Houston are telling my team that this man is from out of town. He is staying at a hotel. The police are now searching his hotel room. His intent, according to my sources, was to take out as many people as he could at the airport with an AR-15. First of all, the idea that this is a coincidence, that this is happening at the airport with the NRA while they're having there, is too much to believe. If I were a journalist, well, let me correct that, if I were an honest journalist, I would be looking for these connections. Look for the connections of who this man is and any connection he might have to the Uber left. I believe that, and only because I have been looking for this, I believe this man could fall into the category of somebody who has lost his job, is depressed, etc., etc. Somebody comes in off to the side, winds him up, says, oh, you should make a statement. You should make a statement. I believe that's probably, I shouldn't say that. I believe it is a very good chance that that's what happened. He then gets to the airport. He realizes, it's pretty clarifying, I would imagine, when you kill people. He realizes that's not who I am. He shoots in the air, drops the AR. The air marshals come. He realizes there's no way out. He shoots himself. If I were an honest journalist, I would find out where these guns came from. Were they purchased or were they illegal? Oh, if they're illegal, I could guarantee you this is a setup. Someone knows history. I do. At least I know enough history to know about the burning of the Reichstag. Let's say a prayer of thanks that at least this man came to his senses before he actually killed anyone but himself. These are the conditions that we as Americans now face. And I am sorry to tell you that there is more to come. The fight is not about the Second Amendment. It's about all of them. If the Second Amendment falls, so will the First, and the Third, and the Fourth, and the Fifth. All of them will fall, except for the Income Tax Amendment. As I have told you earlier this week, nearly every single story that I now see comes back to that one topic, control. Let me give you a couple of stories. The government broke into the house and snatched the baby right out of its mother's arms. Just this last week, we reported on this. In Boston, after the terror bombing, they forced people to stay in home and conducted warrantless home searches. I don't know about you, but I refuse to leave the fate of my family to some bureaucrat. I refuse to allow the government to tell me that they will protect me when 3 out of the 4 men arrested in the Boston bombing shouldn't have been here in the first place because the government dropped the ball. I not only have the right, I have the responsibility to protect my own family. So, I don't know about you, but when a dirtbag terrorist walks through my door, I'm going to send him home to see his 72 virgins. And me and my family are going to have some mac and cheese and watch some TV. But make no mistake, this is what it is all about. Your right to defend yourself and your responsibility to defend the rights of all others. This is what's happening in our country. Rights and responsibilities. Kelby Smith understood this. Here he is in his driveway, brother's driveway, taking his 2-month-old son out of the car seat when an armed robber approaches him, demands money. Smith, a concealed carry permit holder, draws his pistol, and the criminal runs like a little girl. But then he stops, turns back, takes out his gun, points it at Smith. Smith then shoots the criminal. The man later arrested in the hospital with a bad boo-boo. The basketball coach in Detroit, Michigan, he was walking with 2 of his female players when a pair of armed criminals attacked them. He was grabbed. He was threatened at gunpoint after the struggle. The concealed pistol permit holder and reserve police officer pulled out his own gun and shot both of the criminals, killing one, sending the other to the hospital with a bad boo-boo. The 11-year-old Jayan Simon was just in the news. He was riding his bike with a friend. 3 unleashed pit bulls start attacking him. They literally are ripping this little boy apart, mauling him, when a man happens by, unnamed, probably because he wants to stay away from PETA. He pulls out his pistol, shoots one of the dogs. The police officer hears the gunshot, rushes to the scene, shoots the other 2 dogs. The 21-year-old man here in Houston, whose quick action saved he and his parents after 3 armed men rushed into their home. The family was baking a cake when the doorbell rang. The dad answered the door thinking that it was his son's friends. They pushed the dad to the ground and went after mom, forcing her to the bedroom. Well, the criminals didn't have to beat the son to the bedroom. He was already getting the gun out. By the time they entered the room, he was ready and he opened fire. 1 died and the 2 other fled. Mom saved. Good news is, the ones who fled were spotted by police in the getaway car and they were arrested. The entire attack lasted less than 1 minute. Less than 1 minute. It's your mother being forced into the bedroom. If you can't defend yourself, you tell me the government agency that's going to show up into your home in 1 minute to save the day. No one is. All of these stories have happened this year. And I will tell you, I know a lot of police officers, and I have a lot of respect for police officers. Good police officers know that good, responsible citizens help them, not harm them. Criminals are brazen enough to know that there is a gun possibly in your home. Imagine how bold they will be if they are guaranteed that there is no weapon in your home. I'd rather not find out. Saturday, I'm going to do my speech, and I will show you history that you have not seen before. And I will propose charting a new course from my cold, dead hands to a new path that I believe will lead to the preservation of the Second Amendment and knit together our fabric as Americans again. Democrats and Republicans have been pitted against each other, and I don't know about you, but I despise both of them at this point. It's not going to be an easy chart. Easy course to chart. It's not going to be easy to get there, but it has to be done. Progressives have been eagerly watching what has happened in our country and what has happened in California. Governor Jerry Brown just signed the gun confiscation bill yesterday. Here's a state that is completely broke. They're spending another $24 million for the government to come in and continue to take more guns away from those that are now defined as criminal or mentally ill. It's a very crafty move by progressives. And of course, everyone doesn't want criminals or crazy people walking around with guns. But who defines what is mentally ill? Who decides that one? Eric Holder will. We told you of a story of a woman who went to the hospital in California. She was a grandmother. It was right before Christmas. She was taking some medicine. It was making her cry all the time. She called her doctor up and she said, "Doctor, I'm crying all the time. This is crazy." And she said, "It's coming up to Christmas. My grandchildren are coming over and I don't want them to remember this Christmas that Grandma was crying." He said, "Why don't you go check yourself into the hospital? We'll just adjust your dose a little bit and everything will be fine." Well, everything was fine. She admitted herself to the hospital so her children, her grandchildren, would not have the memory right before Christmas of Grandma crying all the time. Well, that was enough for the law enforcement in California to show up at her home and take all of her family's guns. Even the ones that belong to her husband, who has no medical or mental issues, neither does she. This is why Obamacare doctors want patients to be asked about guns. The doctors will ask, do you have a gun in your home? You have somebody in your house that is struggling with any kind of issue. Your guns will be confiscated. Well, what do you think that's going to do? Put more crazy people on the street? Because I got news for you. If that's the way I have to deal with it, I'm not going to a doctor. That's crazy in and of itself. If progressives cannot defeat the Second Amendment nationally and do it in the up and up, they'll do what they always do, go through the back door, and they're doing it now state by state. Now is the time to stand. And tonight I'm going to introduce you to some people. I'm going to introduce you actually to one guy in a minute who didn't grow up around guns at all, but he is the best pro-gun voice on the scene today. His name is Colin Noir. And also, before we leave you tonight, some history, some guns that will blow your mind. Some cool history you've never seen before coming up. I just swore this audience to secrecy during the break. Some of these guns I had to select between these. Some of these are coming from the NRA museum. Others are coming from private collectors. Some of these are from David Barton. This is, I started about 3 or 4 months ago and I said, can I get Sirhan's gun? Could I get Abraham Lincoln's gun? What guns, what famous guns could I get to show and tell the story of America, good and evil? Well, these are some of these guns I will show on Saturday, and I will not tell all of those stories right now. I want to show you some of them that didn't make the cut on Saturday, even though World War II played a huge role. This gun won't make it. Why don't you come on over here and follow me? This is an amazing gun. This was used by the SS. This is a belt buckle. So when the Germans would come to arrest, I would imagine that's what for. I mean, I can't imagine it was like, let me shoot my gun. But it opens up, and watch this. I think you do this. And then you push these two. There's first shot here, and the second shot is here. This has now been copied a lot of different places. And of course, this would be banned in the United States. I can't imagine you did a lot of... I can't imagine how you even used this myself, but let me show you, while we're here in the Nazi era, let me show you this. This is a remarkable gun. This is a beautiful gun. But this has tremendous evil and actual good history. This will show you it's who owns the gun, not the gun. This was a gift from Franco in Spain. And this was a gift to Goering from the Nazis. He was a shooter, and this was given to him in thanks for all the Nazis had done for Spain. You guys are great. We should give you guys a gun. And so he used this gun. He had this for shooting. But here's the interesting thing. It went from him to Eisenhower. And it was actually confiscated after the war and then given to Eisenhower. And then Eisenhower gave it as a gift to Patton. And then the man who got it after Patton gave it to the NRA to hold and preserve. Let me show you how guns can go from good to bad to good to bad to good to bad. If it's guns, well, then this wouldn't work. I'll show you a couple things. This is a gun from the American Revolution. This gun was from the Battle of Saratoga. This gun was used actually by a British soldier in the Battle of Saratoga. Here's what's so amazing about this gun is there was just a handful of Americans that won the Battle of Saratoga, and there were 5,000 British troops. And when it was all said and done, they surrendered. And then they said, okay, I'm going to let you guys keep your guns, but you're going to promise not to shoot us, right? And the British said, on our honor. And they marched them all the way back with their guns. A time when honor actually meant something. This gun is this is one of the King's men's gun from the French Revolution. This actually was taken off of a dead French soldier and then later used for the other side during the Revolution. The same thing with this gun. This is another gun from the American Revolution. And I have that one because this was the bayonet on the end of it. Not a lot of time to reload. And this one is truly amazing. If it's the gun. It looks a little like my father's because it's all bent here. If it's the gun, this gun shouldn't exist. This is a gun that was used by the British in the American Revolution. And we shot that guy. And an American picked it up, and he started using it. And then, after we won, it was held by a man who was then called to go over and fight the Muslim extremists that, of course, Thomas Jefferson was telling us didn't exist. Or wait, no, he said they did exist. The Muslim extremists, this was for the Barbary pirates. The American that had this gun obviously lost the gun, and one of the Barbary pirates took it, and thus all of the Muslim markings on this gun. It's not the gun. It's the person holding the gun. It's the intent by the person who is shooting the gun. We will introduce you to some more amazing things, including a sword that I believe is one of the most evil things I have ever seen. A sword from a time in American history that we don't want to remember. A sword that is worth a lot of money. But I can guarantee you, by Saturday night, I will show you this gun, which, remember, guns are dangerous. And I'll tell you the story of this sword. And there's not a parent or grandparent in this room that would say, oh, if you could only hold one, take the sword, because the gun is too dangerous. If this is the danger, I guarantee you by Saturday, ask yourself, why will no one pick this one up over this? Back in a minute. Pulling Muir, this is a man who has come on the scene. Where did you come from?
Space. No, I'm actually born and raised in Houston.
How did you come?
Yeah,
There we go.
There we go.
Oh, that's a humidity clap. Stop it.
We got enough of that, huh?
It's like being in a shower after you start the shower to warm things up, and then your kids distract you for like 45 minutes, and then you open up the bathroom door and you're like, it's Houston.
You get used to it.
Yeah, no, you don't. I lived here for 2 years. Yeah. No, you don't. You never do. Okay, so
they paid me to say
you actually started making some videos, and you're an NRA news contributor.
Absolutely.
How did you get wrapped up in that? Because
the YouTube or the NRA?
Yeah, the NRA. Both. Yeah, both.
Well, I started making videos on YouTube, and mainly revolving around just firearms in general.
Why? Because you didn't grow up around them.
No, I didn't. No. I wasn't completely against firearms, but I wasn't too fond of them. And I had a friend of mine who actually had a gun. He hadn't fired in like 3 years. So one day, just kind of out of the blue, no rhyme or reason, he was like, I'm going to go to the range one day. Would you like to go? And curiosity got the best of me. So at that point, we went to the range, and quite frankly, when I stepped in, I was terrified. And ironically enough, with a lot of people I come across with now who are starting to get into firearms, they are usually terrified when they get to the range. I
think the educational system and everything else is training you to be terrified.
Absolutely.
You should have a healthy fear of gun. You should have a respect for the gun.
Yeah.
But not an irrational fear of guns. It's crazy.
See, and a lot of that is perpetrated. A lot of individuals who aren't into firearms to begin with generate a lot of their information about firearms from movies.
Yeah.
So as far as they're concerned, you shoot somebody, they fly 10,000 feet back.
Right.
And it's just not true. And ironic, when I picked up the gun and I fired after the first shot, it was literally love at first shot. And I've been chasing that first high ever since.
It is like that. It's an adrenaline rush.
Yeah,
it is unbelievable.
It is.
You grew up here in Houston.
Yes.
And were you almost kidnapped, or you?
I would like to say so. It seems more dramatic that way.
Yeah. But I've never heard that. That's a phrase you just don't hear.
Yeah.
I'd like to say I was kidnapped.
Like if you look at my girlfriend right now, she's like, what? No. Actually, yeah, when I was younger, I lived in these apartments, and I was, I was kind of naive, I was kind of playing around in the apartment complex, and there were some individuals there drinking beer or whatnot, and one of them came up to me and grabbed my arm and tried to take me somewhere. Now, of course, I struggled and fought back and made it more problem than it was worth for them. But it definitely was a situation that wasn't to my advantage.
And you you saw things that are usually associated with the inner city?
Yeah, of course, the latter half of my life has actually been awesome. And I owe all of that in part to my mother.
Good for her.
She put me in a place after the beginning of high school where I didn't have to worry about some of those things anymore. But at the beginning process, while she was going through school and things like that, we didn't have the money to stay in gated neighborhoods or anything of that sort. But there have been times where I remember as a young kid looking out the window and seeing some pretty crazy things.
I'm amazed at, if I am in an inner city, I want a gun to protect myself. Why is it, especially with the history, we won't say whose gun you just held, but it's a pretty important part of African American history. Why is it, after enslaving, making sure that you couldn't have guns, couldn't vote, et cetera, why is it that the African American community doesn't understand this will keep a man free?
Well, me personally, I can't say I speak for the entire African American community.
Really?
No, not at all.
Well, that's what I asked for. I asked for somebody that could speak for the whole community.
No, but what I can say is, from my experience and my understanding of things, from that community standpoint, the gun has been vilified, because typically what you automatically associate the firearm with is a certain thug mentality, a violent culture wrapped around drugs, violence, and poverty. So the gun gets lumped in that smorgasbord of just mess, and it comes out completely vilified.
So if you have one, then you're part of that.
Then automatically there's an assumption, and it comes from everywhere, and automatically in the hands of somebody who's, say, an African American, it's automatically assumed that I'm probably engaged in some type of criminal activity.
Okay, so, and you're not engaged in criminal activity. In fact, today is a very big day for you. Go ahead, make it. Say it. Announce it. Go ahead.
No, I recently, actually, literally just found out, I want to say about an hour ago, that I passed the Texas bar.
Did you call your mom?
Yes, I did.
What did your mom say?
She didn't say anything. She was just screaming.
Oh, that is so great.
Yeah, it was
That is
awesome.
so great.
It really
Your mom
was
put
awesome.
herself through school while you were young.
Yes.
And now
causing her as much problems as I possibly could.
your mother is a hero.
I love my mother.
Your mother
She
is a hero.
Absolutely.
I asked this backstage. I'm going to ask you now. Any idea what kind of law you're going to pursue? You know what you're going to do?
It's kind of up in the air at this point, especially considering the way things have gone in my life. You know, there are certain factors now probably dictating which way I want to take that. And I'm hoping that the Second Amendment and guns has a large part to play in that.
I hope so too.
Yeah.
God bless. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Back in just a minute. Okay.